fly over Rock Hill all the time, like coming in or landing north, like on a downwind.
Yeah.
Rock Hill traffic, 02 Sierra.
Did you do most of your training out of Rock Hill?
No, actually, the only GA I've really done out of Rock Hill has been when we flew y'all's 310, and then my friend Katie's doing her ratings here now.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I'm not familiar with this airspace really too much at all from like a GA standpoint.
Gotcha. Where did you do most of your training at?
I did it down in Melbourne, Florida. So I actually moved down there for flight school. Wasn't from Florida originally, but did all my ratings there and then instructed there, built all my time down there.
Okay, nice. So a lot of Florida flying.
Yeah, a lot of Florida flying. So you definitely have like a huge advantage doing what you're doing and building time like all over the country because I didn't have any terrain when I was building my time.
Yeah, because everything's like at mean sea level, but you do have to watch out for like Everglades and all that fun
Definitely
stuff.
not Everglades down there. So not a lot of good places to land if you're flying over that part. Like usually we'd stay like more on the coast, like near Miami. And we go down to like the Keys and stuff and follow the road. But I will say a lot of traffic down there, like very busy airspace. So I think it's a huge advantage, like building your time and being used to the comms before going to the airlines.
Here we gotta switch over frequencies. They're talking a lot. Melbourne, Florida is where you did your initial training. Where did you instruct out of there too?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
So it was all Melbourne flight training. When I started as a student, they were just part 61, and then by the time I was instructing, it was 61, 141, because that was during a lot of the boom. So a ton of people started going to flight school at that time, got really busy really fast. So I only instructed for about 9 months before I hit my hours.
Okay. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Did you get hired up during like the 1500 hour?
Yeah, I was super blessed. I think people don't talk about that enough. You know, you'll see a lot of people posting about their success and getting to the regionals and getting to the legacies, and it's just like, you know, oh, I'm so great, but it's, yes, like I'm sure they are. They're super qualified. Obviously, they wouldn't be there, but timing is something like I think we all have to admit is a factor as well. And for me, like I was super blessed to basically hit my ATP minimums and then have an option to go to my airline right away.
Yeah. Yeah, people definitely don't talk about that enough. They also don't talk about, like, you know, like the student to instructor ratio.
Yeah.
They don't talk about, you know, like aircraft availability.
Right.
Like there's so many factors that go into like how quickly you're able to make it through training.
Absolutely. And that's something I really stress to people when they reach out and they ask like, oh, you know, what do you think of this school? What do you think of that school? And I can't really provide specific advice about schools, but what I tell them to look for is, okay, how many aircraft does a school have? Like, do they have their own maintenance? Is it on site? How many students does each instructor have? Because that tells you as a student, okay, am I going to get enough attention? And then it tells you kind of what the instructor environment's going to be like. Am I going to, you know, be able to build time pretty quickly and stuff like that?
Definitely agree with that. What was your favorite thing about being a CFI?
Honestly, I just loved like the transformation you were able to help someone achieve. Like, you know, there's people in the sky probably flying airplanes like right now as we speak because I taught them how to fly an airplane, and like that's so rewarding, you know, like
That's very cool to think about. Do you ever hear them on frequency?
not so much. I mean, definitely all the time. Like when I was an instructor down there, I would hear, you know, other students up flying, and then eventually like people with their own students and stuff like that. But they're all slowly starting to get to the airline. So I just flew with my first former student. But there's, you know, others that have started since at my airline too, and I'll run into them at the airport and stuff like that. So
That's fun.
it's so cool. I'm like, well,
They get to see you in your uniform. You get to see them in their uniform.
just a full circle moment for sure. Just like seeing them, you know, when they were first starting out, like not knowing anything about aviation, and then just like where they are today is like really cool. And like you can say the same about yourself too, but it's just like I feel like extra rewarding to see it in someone else.
Oh yes, 100%. What was the moment that led up to you like getting your aviation addiction, and then how did your well, we already kind of talked about your training a little bit, but what led to you getting that addiction to aviation?
My addiction started really early. I was really young. My sister and I grew up in like the middle of nowhere in like rural Wisconsin. But my parents' house was next to like a tiny non-towered field. And so it was the best. Yeah. So like we'd go out to play, and like we'd like go out near the runway, and you know there's tied down Cessna 172. So I definitely had like that appreciation and admiration early on. But there's always a but, right?
Yeah.
But I had never seen a female pilot, and it sounds kind of cliche, but I'd never seen it in both the general aviation space or the commercial space. And so for me, I was like, okay, this is super cool. I'm gonna like admire from afar, and then I'm gonna pursue a degree in something that I see people doing more frequently. So went to college, got a business degree, worked in business for several years. And I think my like aha moment of like, no, I need to do this was during COVID. My job went remote. I was supposed to go move to London for 6 months, work an international assignment, and then like everything kind of just reset, and now I'm working from this home office. And I think a lot of people took it as a time to reevaluate what they were doing with their lives. And for me,
100%.
Yeah. I remember just like sitting and just thinking like, I don't want to turn 65 and wonder what it would have felt like to fly an airplane. And like once I get an idea in my head, it's like game over. It was like 0 to 100 really quick. Like took a discovery flight, reached out to a couple of people, got connected with the flight school, and then the rest is history.
Love that. So what almost stopped you from becoming an airline pilot? Like, were there any like moments or parts of your training that were just kind of like, I can't do this?
I think the biggest setback for me was when I was trying to become a CFI. I had gone so fast through my prior ratings. So I started March 1st of 2021 was like my first lesson with flight school. And I already had my commercial multi by September of 2021. So it was like a 6-month span.
Yeah.
Super fast. And then I got to CFI and I got humbled really quickly because it was, we talked about like RURAC, like the rote understanding application correlation. I was like at the pretty much rote understanding level for everything, and I got to CFI, and you really have to be at that like correlation, like the top level if you're going to teach someone. And I had a really great instructor who like humbled me early on, and I was like, okay, either I could, disappear and go down to one of those 2-week programs and get through this really quick, or I can get serious and like do this the right way and like be a good instructor. And I like stopped everything, like stopped flying a little bit, just like dug into the ground material, and took like basically the 6 months to do my private through commercial multi. I took another 6 months just to do my CFI. And it was hard. Like I had a lot of moments where I was like, what am I doing? Like, was this a mistake going through everything else to this point? Like I can't really turn back now. But it definitely paid off in the end.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely wanted to take a break after I got my commercial rating because I realized like I had been doing a lot of training in the Midwest area, which is super nice. It's super flat, lots of untowered Class Gs that you can just kind of like sneak into. I also like had done some stuff at like a towered airport too. But like I got in my comfort zone, and like when you're in your comfort zone, you don't really learn a whole lot.
Right.
So, but yeah, getting those lesson plans together. Do you have any like tips or tricks for people who are at that stage and starting to put together their lesson plans and get ready to teach other people how to fly?
I think something that helped me a ton is there was like a group of people at my flight school that were all kind of in a similar phase, like either just about to start their CFI or just about to get their CFI. Like they were all in different kind of parts of the ground school program. And we all started just showing up to each other's lessons, like sitting through and listening to it. Which was great. Like, I know it's like sounds so cliche. Like everyone says like, oh, like, go backseat or go listen to it. But like, it's seriously so transformational.
It helps so much, like sitting in the backseat and just like taking notes while somebody else is doing a lesson. Like,
yes, for sure. Like, especially like, if it's something you're struggling with, like, time just slows down when you're not in the hot seat, right? So like if you're sitting in the back and you can watch someone doing a maneuver, you can like really think through like the ground portion of what's happening, without being the one like having to do it. The pressure too socially of like, I don't want to disappoint my CFI, but same thing with the ground school, because the flying part of CFI I feel like came pretty naturally. It's a lot of the same stuff, different seat, but the ground portion, like sitting in those lessons and then having people sit in mine, and just the pressure of like, okay, now my peers are watching too, I feel like helped me like more accountable of like, okay, I really have to show up prepared for this. Like I can't procrastinate. So that was definitely advice I would give to someone else too.
So like having accountability buddies are like in the same stage of training as you.
Yeah. And even if you don't have someone, like if you're at a small like Part 61 school and there's not a ton of people working on CFI at the same time, like even if there's like, someone earlier in their aviation career, like a private pilot can benefit from sitting through and listening to you trying to teach like fundamentals of flight or something like that, just to like have that on.
Or like an issuance student who is time building, and you guys can kind of like split the pro rata share and everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I noticed my training definitely like got a lot easier when I had like people that I can go to with like my questions and stuff like that, and they were like, not like higher up or lower down. They were like right at the same stage as me. So like, it helps a ton.
For sure. Like this industry also just like oftentimes comes down to like who you know and who your connections are, and just like the more you can network and like grow through these experiences with other people, like you never know where that's going to take you.
Yeah, yeah. So talk a little bit about what the training is like at regional airlines, that, you know, people who are in like that private pilot CFI stage would need to know.
I think it really doesn't, it's not something you necessarily need to know until right before you go. Something I was surprised by, because I am very like type A, like I want to know everything ahead of time and like have a plan. But like my airline, for example, like they'll tell you like, don't go online and try to learn stuff about like the airplane that we fly, because it's also just like the law of primacy. Like you don't want to teach yourself something wrong, because there's so many different airlines that fly the airplane that I fly, and they all fly it differently. So they will tell you like, you know, what material they want you to study ahead of time. They'll give that material to you, and then in class they do a really good job of like laying out, okay, this is what we're doing this week, like this is where you should get ahead, like don't go any further with this. And I say that because I know it's so weird to hear like, oh, don't worry about it now in this stage, but they don't want you to, and they have the program down to a science. And so for anyone that is coming from like that general aviation background, you know, coming through from CFI or time building or banner towing, like these airline programs, they're made for you. I definitely had imposter syndrome going into it, thinking like, oh, you know what, I didn't go to Riddle, or I didn't fly a jet beforehand, like I don't even know what an APU is, like how am I going to get through this program? But the program is made for you. And so like IT is going to come in and teach you, you know, how to set up your iPad. And they're going to kind of tell you before IT comes in, like, all right, you guys, like, I know all of you know how to set up an iPad, like, do that really quick. And, like, while they're here, like, start clicking through your videos about the electrical system. Like, they're going to handhold you, like, perfectly how to get through it.
That's really good to know. Yeah, because I would definitely be stressed out, like, the whole week beforehand, and I'd be trying to, like, learn as much as I can, and then, well, honestly, don't want to learn something the wrong way twice.
Exactly. And then it's so much harder to know, you know, go back and like unlearn it and then like learn it the right way. And, you know, those people are in those positions for a reason. Like at my airline, they've all been through our training program themselves, so they know what it feels like.
All right. So you have your captain. You're a captain now of a CRJ 900. What did anything change mentally the day that you became captain?
I think so. I think like, you know, it's the same airplane. You already know the plane, you know your systems, but it's just the mentality of like, I am the pilot in command of this jet.
You're in charge. It's on your shoulders. Yes. You have that extra stripe that says, I'm in charge.
Yes. No, for sure. And I think like, the crazy part is like you almost think like, you know, the day you pass that check ride or the day you start upgrade training or the day you bid for upgrade, like at some moment you're gonna have like a moment of doubt of like, am I ready for this? Like, can I do this? And then the crazy like transformational part of it, at least in my experience, is like the second you actually sit in that seat though, you don't think about it, which I think is a really positive thing. Like I think it's just like, okay, you know, it's
just like another normal day.
Yeah, like in the airlines, the first officer sits in this seat, they sit in the right seat, the captain sits in your seat, they're in the left seat. And so they tell you when you start upgrade training, like, you know, as a first officer, you look to the left, right? So you look to the left, the captain's sitting there, right? So something happens, you kind of look to them, right? But they say like, now you're going to look to the left and you're going to see your reflection because you're looking in the window. And it's like,
it's true. You look to the left and it's like, oh wait, there's somebody else.
Yeah, no one's here, no one's coming to save the day. Like it's on me. But it's something you don't even think about, you just do, right? Like I was telling some first officers recently who are thinking about upgrading to captain, like, don't even necessarily think about the decisions you're making, you just make them because you know it's on you. Now that being said, you're not sitting there and like telling the first officer what you're going to be doing at all times, right? Like sometimes, a lot of times I'll have the decision kind of already made and then I'll ask my first officer like, all right, what do you think about this? Because that fosters that good like crew resource management, but you already know in your head like what, you know, the best or most likely, you know, scenario is going to be that you're going to do in that moment.
Yeah. What was it like learning that crew resource management? Because, you know, like we teach it in the CFI stage, but like how does it differ from like when you go to the airlines?
I think honestly, like if you do have experience like being a CFI or like flying with other people, like that helps immensely. I think the people that, you know, fly like single pilot, you know, like the cargo 135, whatever the case may be, like they tend to struggle a little bit more. That being said, I'm not saying they can't be successful. Like there's plenty of them that are successful, but obviously when you're already like spending a lot of time in a flight deck with someone, like that's going to help you transition to that next role a little bit more. Yeah, at the airline level, I think it's just like the airline I fly for at least has a really good culture between captain and first officer. It's not always the case. Like a lot of times it's like it's the captain's God, like that's the end all be all. That hasn't been my experience at my airline. Like they really tell you at my airline the second you sit in the right seat, you're a captain in training. And so they really try to foster like day one in training, like, you know, you're a team, you're gonna work through this together.
I like that.
Which is awesome. Yeah. So
it's all about being a team player. Like we all want to be heroes at the end of the day, but like we're, you know, there's a lot of airplane involved too, I'm sure, with like the CRJ 900s.
Yeah, it's like happening so much faster than you're used to in general aviation, right? Like, you know, that's the beautiful thing about like diversity of experience too, is like someone might think of something that you haven't thought of before. And I think staying humble in both seats is super important too, because like you might not always have the perfect answer. Like someone might cause you to think about something that you weren't considering. And so just being able to like listen to the other person is huge.
Do you want to get into the DEI hire stuff, or would you rather stay away from it?
Yeah, we can talk about it if you want to talk about it.
Okay. Do you ever feel like you're a DEI hire?
I don't feel like I'm a DEI hire, but I do feel like sometimes the public's perception is that I'm a DEI hire, if that makes sense.
That does.
And I'm someone that actually came from an HR background before I transitioned into flying, so I understand the legality of things like that. So it is a little disheartening when you hear this like public perception that they think that like that's why you're at where you're
what's happening, and it's not all those years of training, experience, time and effort that you put into learning flying and stuff, teaching other people how to fly.
For sure. Like in my experience, like I have no check ride failures. Like, you know, I exceeded ATP minimums in certain categories. Like, you know, I volunteer, I have a degree, I've got real world work experience, like all those things. But like someone will still look at me sometimes and say like, oh, you got hired because you're a girl. It's like, no, like if anything, I got hired quicker because of timing, but that timing was open to everyone, right? So it's definitely something that like you'll hear like at the airlines, like not so much from your crews, because you know the people that are sitting, you know, in that seat next to you, like they understand like what you went through to be there. But the public, like I've had the public make like comments before.
I know, I got my first mean comment on an Instagram post the other day.
That's kind of like a win if that's your first one.
Well, it was because normally like my shorts and stuff, it like features like other people as well. So like somebody commented like, this is lame and cringy, all this self-promoting content. But like I don't just promote myself, I promote everybody.
You're trying to like make aviation more accessible for other people.
We want to combat the fear mongering that's happening in the media. Like everybody should know this stuff. I mean, I know sometimes like it sounds like we're speaking a different language, but like if you listen hard enough, we're really not.
Yes, and I think like people are quick to judge those that like post on social media about this career. And like I've definitely dealt with that a lot too. And it's just like, you know, people will ask me when I post like a question box, they'll be like, oh my gosh, like how do you pack for a 4-day trip? And I'll do a video because someone's, you know, a CFI about to come to the airlines. They want to know, you know, how that works. And then, you know, someone who's a captain at a legacy airline will comment and be like, thanks, I really needed help packing my bag. I'm like, this isn't for you though. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. From your perspective, it probably seems cringy, right? But like, that's not the target audience, right? Like, the whole point.
The target audience is the person who's asking the question in the first place.
Or the people who are like, have never seen a woman in this field, you know, like we want to reach them. We want them to see like what this career is like, and also that we want them to see someone that looks like them doing what, you know, they might be interested in.
Yes, that is huge, because you never know who you might be inspiring. There might be some like cute little like 7-year-old girl who's always like looked up at airplanes and been like, that looks like a lot of fun.
I had a girl come up to, we were recruiting at an event for my airline, and she came up to like my boss over the recruiting, and she was just like, is that pilot Shauna? And my boss was like, yeah, it is. Like, do you want to go talk to her? And she was like, yeah, like I actually like saw her videos like way back when she was a student pilot, and that inspired me to get into aviation. And she's like, and now she's here at this airline, and I just joined your cadet program. Like I'm instructing, like I'm going to be at this airline one day. And I like cried when I heard that. I was like, that's what this is all about. Like, you know, I'll take 50 hate comments for like one situation like that any day.
That is so fun. That's so cute. Do you ever get that feeling like you just want to like go out and do like a shutdown or something?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I do miss GA for sure.
Monroe traffic, Scott.
Yeah, I feel like is like the best. Like it's so cowboy, but
Yeah, like it's so freeing. Like I can't take the CRJ to get, airport flying breakfast. Like you can do anything once.
True. Yeah, because you guys don't. What kind of maneuvers do you practice when you get up there, or is it mostly just like emergency procedures and like sim training? And
Yeah, so we only ever practice maneuvers in the sim. Like we never do anything. I know, like way back in the day before simulators, like people used to earn their type ratings in the jet, which is so like mind-boggling to me. But it's all in the sim, and it's gonna be a lot of the similar stuff that people have learned like in their training. Like you're gonna do steep turns, you're gonna do stalls, like all that good stuff.
yeah. What's been the coolest leg you've been on?
The coolest leg I've been on. Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know. One of my favorite like Safi is like into DC, like DCA airport when they're landing south, because we do the river visual.
Okay, cool.
Which is so cool because you're basically just like visually like following the river down, like maneuvering into the airport, and you're gonna fly like next to the White House and the Washington Monument and all that stuff. And like
That's awesome.
you get to feel like a real pilot again instead of like, Charlotte, like a 40-mile final ILS, just like into, the airport. So that's always pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, because at that point the airplane's basically flying it for you, and you're just like kind of like reading everything, and it's like another day in the office.
Yes, which is still cool, don't get me wrong. Like there's still their own challenges. Like you're flying with a new FO, like, the weather might be challenging. Like it's still always fun. Like every single approach you do is different, but stuff like the river visual is going to always be like more special.
Yeah. We like to call approaches when we're stuck in the soup spicy approaches.
There you go.
Done a couple of spicy approaches.
Yes.
So those are always fun.
For sure, yeah. You have to work for it. Like that's like rewarding,
Yeah. We love working.
Yes.
Most of the times it doesn't feel like work, but
working, yeah. Still feels like a hobby more than a job.
Yes. What's something passengers would panic about that's actually completely normal?
I think they tend to get nervous whenever the term maintenance is mentioned, because I think like for them it just feels extreme, but they don't necessarily understand like, MEL's like minimum equipment list and like things that can be wrong with the plane. Like an aircraft being under maintenance could be something as simple as they're just like repairing the like tray table and the seat in front of them, like it's not always something like scary. Most of the times it's not at all. So I think like that term just tends to freak them out, and we can't always give them the full picture of exactly what's happening either. So I try to like tell them. I had a flight the other day where they were repairing basically like the flooring in the back of like one of the cargo holds, and we had already fully boarded our passengers at that point, and we were just waiting on paperwork from maintenance to be able to close up and go, and now we're delayed and people are wondering what's going on, and I can easily just sit in the flight deck and not even look at them or talk to them and stuff like that. But I basically like made a PA and said like, for my nervous flyers, I just want to give you the peace of mind that, it's just a cargo hold. They're just repairing the floor. It's mostly just a cosmetic thing. However, it is, a legal requirement that we have this paperwork done and complete before we can go. That way they're not just hearing like, oh, the aircraft's under maintenance. Like, we'll let you know when we're good to go. Like people are like, what's under maintenance? Like, is the engine being taken off? Like, what's happening,
Yeah. And I think that's something that like, other pilots don't really get. Like they'll mention something like minimum equipment list, which like I know what that is as a passenger, but other passengers around me don't know what that is. But like I recently did a flight with my my friend. We were going over to Alaska, and then she asked me, what do they mean by that? I was like, it just means that it was something that's required on some type of list. Yeah. Like it's not a big deal, but like it's something that needs to be done in order for like this flight to be safe, technically. So yeah, I mean the minimum equipment list can like also apply to like coffee makers too, is what I hear.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I mean, it could be anything. It's not always the biggest deal.
Exactly.
If they thought it was a big deal, they would not be letting you take off.
Yeah, exactly.
If the pilot doesn't think that the flight is safe, you're not going to leave the ground.
Yeah, and we see instances of that. There was a flight a while ago, I think it was Delta, and it was supposed to go to Hawaii or something like that.
Yeah.
And the captain just refused the plane, I don't know the full story. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what their maintenance paperwork looked like. Like, I have no idea what was happening in that flight, but that was just something that went really viral from a passenger standpoint, and the passengers were applauding it. They're like, well, if the captain doesn't feel like it's good to go, like, I don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's a nice thing at the end of the day is, like, they do trust you. You just have to tell them.
Yeah. Like, we don't want to die either, so.
Yeah.
So how do you realistically stay fit and healthy with airline schedules?
This is definitely something like I still personally struggle with a lot, and I think the biggest culprit, at least for me, is the varying circadian rhythm. Like, especially now, like after upgrading to captain, I'm back on reserve, so I start reserve call out at 5 a.m., but they can call me like later in the day, and I can end up on a trip that's like a PM trip, and then I could be off one day, and I could be on an AM trip, or some of our trips are commutable is what we like to say, so they might start late on the first night and fly until 1 in the morning. And then you have like the minimum rest, and you're waking up, late morning and flying a little bit earlier into the evening, and then you have min rest again, and all of a sudden, like by the fourth day, you're waking up at like 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's like a complete reversal of your schedule. So I try to do more like wellness type things, like making sure I'm getting good quality of sleep, like making sure I get 8 hours of actual true sleep, and then drinking electrolytes because it's really dry in the airplane and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Still working on getting back into that like true fitness routine. I was really good about that before I was a CFI, and I've been kind of lacking on that lately. So for me, I think I just need to like really set out a routine of like allocating the time on an overnight of like, okay, this is what I need to do if I'm on a PM, like, in the morning when I wake up, or an AM, like in the afternoon before I go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because you're usually 4 days on, and then like a couple days off.
Yeah, it totally depends. Like I'm trying out something new this month where I'm doing like 2 or 3 days on and like 1 or 2 days off and back and forth. So that way, because
so
it's
a little bit of a quality of life in between.
Yeah. But it really hasn't been that bad. When I was a first officer, I had a line, which is basically a schedule that I knew in advance. And then I could drop overnights and just do like turns because I live in base. And then I had a lot of control over my schedule. It was like easier to manage those things. Now it just looks a little bit different because I don't know if they're going to call me, when they're going to call me, like how long I'm going to be gone for, how many legs I'm going to fly that day.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of uncertainty that I think makes it a little bit harder on the reserve side.
That makes sense. Yeah, I feel like that's like one of those things where like if you solve it for pilots, like it would definitely like kind of like improve like mental health.
Yeah.
Like getting that circadian rhythm back in order. Because do you ever just like, if you're like flying late at night, just like stay up until the next day so that you can fall asleep at the correct time again?
I don't do that personally, just because like I am the type of person where like I need the rest. So I just like force myself to sleep if it's like later than normal or earlier than normal, just to like get the rest. So that way I am safe to fly like the following day. If I'm coming home off a trip and I'm not flying the next day or a couple days after, I might do something like that to like adjust my sleep schedule back to normal.
Okay.
But for me personally, like on a trip, like I just try to like prioritize like the 8 hours of rest like before anything else.
Yeah, because I know some people do that for like long like overhaul flights. Like they'll just like stay up so that they can get back on like a normal like circadian rhythm for when they come home.
Yes, and that's definitely harder than what I do. Like I might cross 2 time zones in the CRJ, but there's people that'll fly from San Francisco to Hong Kong, and it's just like so vastly different. Yeah.
What does a good layover look like to you now versus earlier in your career?
I think now I'm a bit of a hotel princess, and so first and foremost, quality of the hotel is everything now, because that dictates like how comfortable I am, which dictates how well I sleep, and that overall determines like the quality of my trip. I think at this point, at the beginning, I was just like excited to be anywhere and everywhere. I was like, oh my gosh, like I remember my first overnight ever at the airlines was Manchester, New Hampshire, but I think the airport's like Manchester, Boston or something like that. And I saw that and I was like, I'm going to Boston. I was so excited, like I'm going to get a lobster roll, and then I learned really quickly I was not going to actual Boston. So I was just excited about everything and anything back then. Yeah, I still get excited now. Like I love when I get to go somewhere I haven't been before, but quality of the hotel, and then if it's downtown for me, that's awesome because I can walk and get food, or I can just literally just walk around, like sightsee, like stop in a little market, stuff like that are going to be the big things for me.
Nice. Do you guys normally end up staying at like a Hilton Honors or something?
We usually at the airlines, we actually don't get to collect hotel points, believe it or not. So
really, okay.
We like at my airline, we're at a variety. Like one day we might be in a Marriott, the next day we might be in a Hilton, and then maybe like 1 out of 10 will actually get to like collect points at it. But the hotels themselves like vary. Like we have a contract in each city, so we'll be like usually in the same one, but we could be in a Marriott one night and, one town in the Hilton.
Gotcha. Yeah, do you have like any financial tips for people at like regionals who maybe like want to save a little bit more and help like pay off like their student loans?
I think once you get a line, it's everything, because typically once you have a line, you're going to work less and make more money than reserve, because reserve, just like the way it's calculated, the value of the day, like if you don't get called and stuff like that, like it can make it a little bit harder, because then you're going to get your like minimum monthly guarantee unless they fly you more than that, which usually they don't. And people are less likely on reserve to like pick up extra flying on off days, because their schedule's just so inconsistent within their reserve days to begin with. They usually just take those days for rest. Once you have a line, you can, you get the credit value of whatever you're flying for that month. And then you can pick up more. You can trade your trips for like higher credit trips and stuff like that. So
nice.
I tried to, even when I was on reserve, I tried to just like pick up more flying, make a little bit of extra money on top of my guarantee. And then I just like prioritized like paying off like debt as fast as I could. Like I paid off my flight school stuff within like the first couple months. Like I paid off like my old employer from my master's degree right away. And then like my car and stuff like that. Just trying to like tackle all of that. And then get to the captain pay as fast as I could too.
Yeah, how much extra is the captain pay?
It depends. So at my airline and a few airlines right now, you can get captain pay even as a first officer. It kind of varies how that works, but usually it's going to be something that you're incentivized with like a couple hundred hours before you're eligible to be a captain, to try to motivate people to like get those hours and be qualified so they can upgrade when the time comes.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so I think the difference is usually about, don't quote me on this, like an extra $50 an hour or so, like for being a captain as opposed to...
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's pretty great. Now I want to become a captain.
Yes, it's worth it.
What's one habit that's helped you avoid burnout long term?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Because I almost feel like, transparently, I kind of did burn myself out. But like I knew I was doing it. Like I came from, a former career, so I was working full time, and then like that time we talked about before where I did like 0 to commercial multi in 6 months, like I was working full time during that time. I was in graduate school, like I was just trying to get through it as fast as I can while I still had that employment.
Yeah, doing that while in graduate school is a little
diabolical.
Yeah,
I don't recommend that. And then
I mean, it's super impressive nonetheless, but
it was a lot though. It was definitely a lot. And then once I became a CFI, it was like kind of weird timing where the regionals were booming so much because the legacies were booming. So now flight instructors were all getting picked up like at their minimum. So flight instructor staffing was kind of short. So now we were working a ton, which was great. Like I loved it.
Probably had like 6 students at a time that you were like having to split your brain between.
Yeah, and like working like, every single day. And like I flew over 120 hours of flight hours per month as an instructor. But like I also was giving ground and, doing stuff outside of that too. And so like I can't say that I avoided burnout, because I did burn out, but I did it intentionally. Like I could see the window closing, like I ended up leaving that corporate job to like flight instruct, and then I like took out the loan for like my CFI and CFAA, and I was like, okay, this isn't a sustainable income as an instructor. Like I need to get to the airlines to, pay this stuff off and be able to afford life again. So I kind of rushed to the airlines. Once I got here though, then I feel like I kind of like took a moment, like reset, like,
that's good.
Had the good quality of life now, especially like when I was a senior FO and just doing the day turns, like home all the time. Like that's when I was able to like kind of reset my body and give it what it needed to like, okay, like.
Do you feel like pushing yourself through kind of like set up your nervous system for success because you knew you could handle all of that stress load?
I feel like I definitely knew I could handle it. Like I'm definitely the type of person that does a lot of things at once.
Yeah.
And I'll get stir crazy if I don't. So like when I was working in business, like I was working that job, I was doing the master's degree, like before I started flight school, like I was running 2 of my own businesses like on the side. So like I had a lot on my plate. So I knew I could do it. I just knew I couldn't do it forever. And so for me, I have to have a goal in mind. And that was like the light at the end of the tunnel of like, okay, this is going to pay off because I'm going to be at an airline. Like I need to put my head down, make a lot of sacrifices. I sacrificed my social life and things like that just to like do everything I needed to do to get to where I am now.
Yeah, tell your friends to call you like once you made it to the regionals.
Yeah, tell me to do you.
Like I had to get through a couple more check rides.
Yes. Gotta lock in.
Yeah. Gotta have those lock-in periods.
For sure.
How do you get your morning coffee? Do you just like rush to the airport as quickly as possible and stand in line at Dunkin' Donuts?
Sometimes I do that. Usually, like, I have to have caffeine in the morning to function. I am definitely a caffeine early. So if I'm not sure that I'll like be able to get access to caffeine on a trip, like I'll pack a bunch of Alanis in my bag. So I'm like, okay, it's like accessible. And then I love taking my crew for like coffees or treats or stuff like that. So like if there's time, like, you know, we get to Charlotte and we have like an hour before our next flight, like I'll run in and like get everyone Dunkin' or Starbucks or something.
Nice, that's good. What is it that you say that pilots complain about?
I feel like pilots just love to complain about their schedules. And like to me, it just cracks me up having come from like a different career. Like I talk about this with my first officers all the time. Like,
yeah.
I feel like for me, like I'm not glued to my computer and bringing it home and like salaried, like working like 80 hours a week. Like the schedule's so good. Like work doesn't come home with me. And like if it did, like if the CRJ came home with me, that'd be super cool. So like they'll complain.
Well, I mean, you do have like the layout that could come home with you.
Yeah, right.
Like go through your checklist, but it's stuff that you like already know like the back of your hand at this point. So I'm sure you don't have to.
But it's just like they'll complain, like scheduling, like they'll be on reserve and scheduling will like assign them something and they're like, I can't believe scheduling's making me do that. I'm like, you're getting paid.
Yeah.
And, like, you're on call on like the day that you picked to be on call. So like that's a tough one because like, and I get it, you know, when like you really try to get one day off and you just can't get that day off. Like obviously we're all human, like that can suck sometimes. Like, and that's something that just comes with being junior and usually like as you go on, it just gets better. But it's just like the new people at the airlines, like,
yeah.
Maybe they didn't know what they were getting themselves into. We'll just like complain about the schedule. I'm like, okay, we still have, you know, half the month off almost. And like, it's a really great gig. Like we're paid a lot to fly a regional jet. So.
Yeah, it's not like you have to show up to work like for 9 to 5 and then like, yeah, also on top of that, bring that home work and then you at least get like some like time away from the aircraft to like kind of like decompress and stuff.
Yes. Like I love reminding people like this is the job I prayed for like all the time.
Living the dream.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now, living the dream.
Yes, yes. There's a lot to be grateful for sure.
Yes, beyond blessed. That's what I always say, beyond blessed.
And like also with like the stagnation in hiring we've seen kind of like the last year or so, it's just like I also try to remind people like think of all the CFIs that are like praying to be in our shoes right now.
Yeah.
We're here. You know what I mean? Like
those poor 3,000 hours.
Yeah.
Guys who are just like they can't wait to get to the airline.
Yes.
Do you think hiring is going to pick up anytime soon?
Oh, definitely. We're already seeing like the trend of it picking up and, you know, the legacies. It's a trickle down effect, right? Like they're starting to boom and take our pilots, you know, mostly captains, which is causing a lot of people to upgrade, which is going to cause a lot of vacancies on the first officer side, which is going to start to alleviate, you know, those CFIs that have been waiting so long for these jobs.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to start to move again. I don't think we're ever going to see it to be as massive as it was during like 2022 to 2023.
Yeah.
But I definitely think, you know, this is largely going to supersede numbers that we saw before COVID. Like, I think that people focus on the doom and gloom of the slowdown, but they don't focus on the fact that it's still better than it historically has been.
Yeah. Everything comes in waves. The 3,000 hours CFIs get hired on first, and then probably the 2,000 hours CFIs after that.
Hey guys, thanks for watching another episode of Conversations in the Cockpit. Make sure that you like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, comment, any way you guys want to engage, so that we can continue these conversations. Anyways, I hope you like this episode. See ya!